My brother got my fiancée pregnant, mocked me behind my back, and my family expected me to raise his child. I'm a 32-year-old man, was engaged to Kay, a 29-year-old woman, for 3 years. We lived together, and I have a 4-year-old son from a previous relationship. Things were not perfect, but I thought we were okay. I had this image of how life would be. My son finally having a brother, me having a second chance to build the family I always wanted. You know, the simple stuff, what most men hope for. Then, 3 weeks ago, Kay found out she was pregnant. At first, I was thrilled. I thought this was the next chapter, the moment when everything would fall into place. But instead of bringing us closer, the pregnancy pushed her further away. The day after she told me, she started to distance herself. She was quiet, distant, and spent too much time on her phone. I thought maybe she was overwhelmed, that she just needed time to process the news. I gave her space, because that is what you are supposed to do, right? Except that space turned into long nights, ignored questions, and her phone always on silent or face down. Every time I asked her how she felt about the baby, she would answer with something vague, a single word, as if I was bothering her just by caring. My gut was telling me something was not right, but I did not want to believe it. I kept ignoring it, telling myself I was overthinking. Then came the night that changed everything. Kay left her laptop open while she was showering. I am not the type to snoop, but when I saw a message pop up with my brother's name, M, and a flirty emoji next to it, my stomach dropped. Curiosity got the better of me, and I opened the conversation. What I saw left me frozen. They were not just casually chatting, they had been seeing each other secretly for months. I read the messages, and the more I read, the worse it got. They mocked my obliviousness and joked about how stupid I was for not figuring it out. They planned their encounters while I was at home, putting my son to bed. But the worst part was that Kay had told him about the pregnancy before me, shared details with him that she had not even told me, and they laughed about how stressed I would be raising 2 kids. I felt like the ground was opening up beneath my feet. M is my older brother, the golden child, the one who always stole the attention with his confidence and charm. Growing up, I got used to living in his shadow, but this was not just him being the family favorite. He crossed a line that no brother should cross. I spent the following days sleepless, cycling between anger, disbelief, and the desire for revenge. I was not going to stay quiet and let them get away with it. They wanted to make me look like a fool, fine, but they were not going to walk away clean. There was a family gathering coming up at my parents' house to celebrate Kay's pregnancy. The irony did not escape me, and I decided that was where I was going to expose them. No private conversations, no silent breakups. I wanted everything to come out in the open where she could not deny it or spin it. I gathered everything. Screenshots of the messages, timestamps, all the ugly truth. I was not going to show up unprepared. If they wanted to act like they were untouchable, I was going to show them how wrong they were. Tomorrow, I would light the fuse, and I was not planning on putting out the fire. The next day, I woke up with a mix of fear and adrenaline coursing through my body. It felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, knowing I was about to jump, but not knowing if I was going to land safely or crash. I could not get the image of Kay and M laughing behind my back, believing they had outsmarted me, out of my head. That thought alone gave me the strength to keep going. I checked the screenshots one last time, making sure everything was in order. There were no gaps, no room for them to wiggle out. The messages told the whole story, the encounters, the betrayal, the mockery of my trust. I saved them in a folder on my phone called Evidence, and I also printed some of the most damning conversations, just in case. I was not going to give them even the slightest chance to deny anything. When I arrived at my parents' house, the gathering was already in full swing. Inside, my mom was in the kitchen preparing side dishes with Kay by her side. Seeing them together made my blood boil. Kay looked so calm, so comfortable, as if she had not been secretly destroying my life. She was laughing at something my mom said, completely oblivious to the storm she was about to walk into. And there was M, sprawled on the living room couch as if he owned the place. He had that arrogant, relaxed expression, the same one he always had when he thought he had the upper hand. He was joking with my brother-in-law, acting like everything was fine. His sheer arrogance almost made me lose control right then and there, but I held back. Not yet. I wanted an audience. When dinner was ready, we all sat around the table. My mom chatted happily, talking about how excited she was to become a grandmother again, clueless about the bomb that was about to explode. Kay was sitting across from me, and a few seats down, eating as if nothing in the world bothered him. Midway through the meal, when the conversation lulled, I knew it was time. I put down my fork and cleared my throat loud enough to get everyone's attention. The room fell silent as everyone looked at me. My dad put down his knife, and my mom looked at me with curiosity. Kay shifted uncomfortably in her seat, and leaned back with a bored expression. For now, I need everyone to pay attention, I said, my voice steady even though my heart was pounding. There is something I need to share about Kay and M. Kay's eyes widened, and I saw the color drain from her face. M sat up straight, losing some of his cocky demeanor. My mom looked confused, but my dad's expression hardened. He knew something serious was coming. I have kept this to myself for weeks, but I cannot anymore. I continued. Kay and M have been seeing each other secretly behind my back, and it did not stop after Kay and I got engaged. Not even after Kay found out she was pregnant. The room erupted in gasps of surprise. My mom covered her mouth with her hands, and my dad clenched his jaw. Kay looked like she was about to cry, while M just sat there, his face oscillating between surprise and anger. I have proof, I said, pulling out my phone and opening the folder. Here are their messages. Here is how they mocked me. They lied to me and were seeing each other secretly. I scrolled through the messages, reading some of the worst ones aloud. Kay covered her face with her hands, sobbing. It is not what it looks like, she cried. I did not want this to happen. I let out a dry laugh. You did not want to get caught. M finally stood up, pushing his chair back abruptly. This is ridiculous, he said, his tone arrogant. We do not have to do this here. I laughed bitterly and stood up to face him. You do not get to decide where this happens. You betrayed me, and you thought I was going to let it slide. Not this time. Before anyone could react, M lunged at me. He punched me in the shoulder, but I barely felt it. The rage I was carrying inside was too strong for a punch to stop me. I punched him back, straight in the jaw. The room became a chaos. My dad tried to separate us, and my mom was yelling for us to stop, but I was not done. You ruined my life, I yelled, shoving him against the wall. You had everything, M. The family adored you, and yet you had to take what was mine. He smirked, blood trickling down his lip. Maybe if you had been man enough to make her happy, this would not have happened. That was it. I threw another punch, but my dad finally stepped between us, pushing me back far enough. Enough, he yelled. Both of you sit down. I stepped back, breathing heavily, my fists still clenched. Kay was now sobbing uncontrollably, and my mom was crying too, begging me to calm down. M wiped the blood from his mouth and smirked again, but he did not say anything. He knew better. I looked at Kay, who was trembling in her seat. It is over, I said coldly. I do not care about your excuses. You can be with him if that is what you want, but do not expect me to be a part of this, ever again. Without waiting for a response, I grabbed my phone and walked out of the house. I could still hear Kay crying and my mom calling after me, but I did not stop. I had done what I came to do. The truth was out, and there was no going back. I drove back home with the adrenaline from the fight still coursing through me, my heart pounding and my mind racing. I replayed the scene over and over in my head. Kay's tear-stained face, M's mocking smile, my dad stopping me just before I could throw another punch. None of it gave me satisfaction. If anything, it just left me with a bitter taste. When I got home, my son was sleeping over at a friend's house, so I had the place to myself. Normally, the idea of a quiet night would sound like a relief, but not that night. The silence felt suffocating. Just a few weeks ago, I was planning a future with Kay, excited about the baby we were supposed to raise together. Now, I did not even know who she really was. My phone buzzed on the coffee table, snapping me out of my thoughts. It was Kay. She had sent 3 messages in less than 5 minutes. Please, we need to talk. I am sorry. I did not mean for any of this to happen. Just give me a chance to explain. I ignored them. I was not ready to hear her excuses. Instead, I opened the folder on my phone, the same one I had shown at the family dinner. Each message was a reminder of how much they had mocked me, how little they respected me. I could feel the anger creeping back, but this time, I did not let it consume me. I could not afford to break down. I had a son who needed me, and I had to stay strong for him. The following days were a blur. I went to work, picked up my son from school, and tried my best not to think about Kay or M. But they did not make it easy. Kay kept texting, leaving voicemails that I refused to listen to. M, on the other hand, remained silent, probably licking his wounds after our fight. My mom called me every day, begging me to meet with them to talk, but I could not do it. Talk about what? They destroyed everything, and no apology would change that. Update. 2 weeks after the family dinner, Kay showed up at my doorstep. I was not expecting her, and for a moment, I hesitated to even open the door, but the knocking persisted, and I did not want to wake up my son, who was napping upstairs. With a sigh, I unlocked the door and opened it. Kay was there, her eyes red and puffy, her hair a mess, like she had not slept in days. She had a crumpled tissue in one hand and a small bag in the other. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice hoarse. I crossed my arms and leaned against the doorframe, looking her up and down with disdain. "What do you want?" I asked coldly. She sniffed, wiping her nose with the tissue. "Can we fix this, please? I know I messed up, but we can get through this, for the baby." I almost laughed at how desperate she sounded, but the anger simmering inside me did not let me find any humor in the situation. "Fix this? Do you really think we can fix this?" I shook my head, stepping aside to let her in. "Fine, say what you have to say." She walked past me, put her bag on the couch, and turned to face me. She looked scared. "Okay, when I found out I was pregnant, I panicked, and he was there, and I made a mistake, but it did not mean anything. I love you," I scoffed. "Love me? You sure have a funny way of showing it." I took a step closer, lowering my voice. "Do you know how long I spent going over everything, wondering how I could have been so blind? You did not just cheat on me, Kay. You mocked me. You made me a joke." Her eyes filled with tears, and she reached out to touch my arm, but I pulled away. "I am sorry," she whispered. "Please do not do this. Do not throw everything away." "I did not throw anything away," I snapped. "You did. And do not bring up the baby as if it is some magic band-aid that is going to fix this. For all I know, that baby is not even mine." Her face crumbled, and she shook her head vehemently. "It is yours. I swear." I did not believe her anymore. "Then prove it," I said coldly. "Get a paternity test. Until then, do not expect me to believe a single word you say." She broke down crying, so hard she could barely stand. I stood there, watching her fall apart, but I did not move to comfort her. I could not. I had nothing left to give her. After a few minutes, she wiped her face and grabbed her bag. "I will get the test," she whispered before turning and walking out the door. I closed the door behind her and locked it, leaning my forehead against the wood. My hands were shaking, and I could feel everything crashing down on me again, but I did not let it show. I was not going to give her that power. 3 days later, M showed up at my house, banging on the door just like Kay had. But this time I was ready. When I opened the door, he was there, wearing that same arrogant expression, as if he thought he could talk his way out of anything. "We need to talk," he said, trying to barge in as if nothing had happened. I blocked his way. "No, we do not. I know about the paternity test," he said, ignoring my attempt to stop him. "Do you really think dragging this out is going to help you?" My blood was boiling. "Dragging this out? You think I am the one dragging this out? You are the one who slept with my fiancé, and you still have the nerve to come here like everything is fine." He smirked, and that was all it took. I lunged at him. My fist connected with his jaw. We stumbled backward onto the porch, exchanging blows until a neighbor ran over to separate us. "Get away from me, both of you. It is over." M wiped the blood from his lip and let out a bitter laugh. "You are never going to be able to walk away completely, brother. Not with a child involved." I did not answer. I watched him walk down the driveway, get into his car, and speed off. As I walked back inside and locked the door, I realized he was wrong. I could walk away from them, at least from the two of them. All I had left to do now was wait for the results and decide what my next step would be. Update. I spent the next few weeks in limbo, waiting for the results of the paternity test. Time crawled by as if someone had put my life in slow motion. Every day felt like a countdown, either to freedom or to another trap I would be caught in. I told myself I did not care what the results were, that I was prepared for anything, but deep down, I knew that was not true. If the baby was not mine, I would be free from the mess of Kay and M. But if it was, it would mean a lifetime of forced co-parenting with Kay, always looking over my shoulder in case M decided to weasel his way back in. I buried myself in work, trying to distract myself from the thoughts that crept in at night. My son became my anchor, the one thing keeping me grounded when the weight of everything threatened to pull me under. We spent our weekends building Lego towers, baking disastrous cookies, and watching animated movies on repeat. Those moments reminded me that I was not completely broken, even though it felt like my world had been shattered. Kay tried to contact me several times, but I ignored most of her messages. The few I did reply to were strictly logistical: doctor appointments, updates on the baby's health, and the timeline for the test results. She was not as insistent as before, probably because she knew she did not deserve my attention until she had answers. M, on the other hand, had remained silent since our fight. I did not care either way. Then, finally, the day arrived. I was at work when the email notification popped up on my phone. My hands started shaking as I opened it, and for a moment, I could not focus on the words in front of me. I forced myself to take a deep breath and read the results. Slowly. Paternity result, 0%. I stared at the screen, letting the words sink in. The baby was not mine. It felt like a weight had been lifted off my chest, but at the same time, I felt a hollowness in my stomach. I had spent months preparing to be a father again, convincing myself that no matter how bad things were with Kay, I was going to take care of the baby. And now, that responsibility was gone, but it did not feel like the victory I thought it would be. I left work early and drove home in silence, my mind racing. The thought of seeing either of them made my stomach churn, but I knew I could not avoid this forever. When I got home, I picked up my phone and sent a message to Kay, telling her we needed to talk right away. She replied within minutes, agreeing to come over. She probably thought I was going to give her another chance, or that I would agree to raise the baby amicably. But this was not about reconciliation. This was about closure. When she arrived, she looked nervous. I did not offer her a seat. I stood in the living room with my arms crossed, waiting for her to say something. She cautiously asked me if everything was all right, but I simply held up my phone with the paternity test results still displayed on the screen. Her face paled, and she took a step back when I told her I had received the results. Her voice trembled as she asked what they said, but she already knew the answer. I told her that the baby was not mine, that it was M's. Her eyes filled with tears, but I was beyond feeling any compassion. Did you know there was a possibility the baby wasn't mine, and yet you let me believe it was because it was easier for you? I said. She sobbed. I stood there silently, waiting for her to finish. When she finally looked up, she asked me what was going to happen now. What happens now, I said, is that you leave here and you sort things out with them. I told you I am done. She opened her mouth to protest, but I raised a hand to stop her. It is over. Do not call me. Do not text me. You made your choices. Now deal with the consequences. She nodded, defeated, and without another word, walked out the door. I watched her go, feeling a mix of relief and exhaustion. This chapter of my life was finally over, but the scar it left would take time to heal. I had my son, my job, and a future that no longer included her betrayal. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I could breathe again. Update. During the following months, I received news about their situation through family and mutual friends. M had started using drugs, nothing too heavy at first, but enough to be noticeable. He was no longer the golden child. The same relatives who used to praise him now could not hide their disappointment. Meanwhile, Kay was facing the reality of being with someone who was not as charming or perfect as he seemed when they were sneaking around. I stayed out of it all, focused on myself and my son. My work became more than just a paycheck. It became a purpose. I had been working at a small tech startup for years, but after everything that happened, I poured my energy into excelling. I volunteered for projects no one else wanted, stayed late to meet deadlines, and proposed creative solutions in meetings. My effort did not go unnoticed. Within 6 months, I was promoted to project manager, overseeing a team and handling important clients. It felt good to be recognized, but more than anything, it gave me the financial stability and the confidence I needed to rebuild my life. With my new position, I was able to move to a better neighborhood and get my son into a great school. Our weekends were filled with trips to parks, museums, and even weekend getaways. I made sure he had a stable and happy environment, something I had not been able to fully provide before. Seeing him smile without a care in the world reminded me that I had made the right decision by cutting Kay and M out of our lives. I also made time for myself. I reconnected with old friends, started going to the gym regularly, and even took up hiking as a new hobby. My days were not perfect, but they were mine, and that made all the difference. Then, about a year after the breakup, something unexpected happened. I met someone. Let us call her R. We met at a housewarming party for a mutual friend, and what started as a casual conversation about travel turned into exchanging numbers and daily messages. Rachel was everything Kay was not: genuine, supportive, and kind. She did not play games with my emotions or make me doubt myself. She encouraged me, respected my boundaries, and was as passionate about life as I was becoming again. We took things slow, but as the months passed, it became clear that she was different. She loved spending time with my son and treated him like he was a part of her world without overstepping. Seeing them bond melted my heart in a way I did not think possible after the disaster with Kay. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I had someone by my side who truly deserved to be there. Meanwhile, Kay and M's lives continued to fall apart. Kay had the baby, but M was not taking any responsibility. From what I heard, he came and went, made promises he did not keep, and disappeared when things got tough. Their relationship, if you could even call it that, was in shambles. M's drug use had escalated, and he was no longer the charming guy who knew how to get his way. He was now a burden, and Kay was left to deal with the consequences. Family gatherings became awkward. Kay would show up alone, avoid eye contact, and keep the conversations short. My mom, out of pity, tried to convince me to talk to her, but I refused. I had built something better for myself, and I was not going to risk it by reopening old wounds. The news about Kay and M did not affect me the way it used to. In fact, it only served as a reminder of how far I had come. Final update. Months passed, and my life continued to improve in ways I never imagined. My work was thriving. The startup I had joined years ago was now growing rapidly, and I had been promoted to senior project manager. I was overseeing major projects, negotiating deals with high-profile clients, and making more money than I ever had. I had even started saving for a family vacation with R and my son, something that felt surreal considering where I was a year ago. R and I had grown closer. She had become a pillar in my life, someone I could rely on without having to question her intentions. We spent our weekends hiking, trying new restaurants, and binge-watching shows after putting my son to bed. She fit perfectly into my life. Simply put, I was happy. And then, as if the universe wanted to remind me how far I had come, the news arrived. My brother, M, had been arrested and was in jail for drug possession and trafficking. The family group chat was ablaze with messages, most of them filled with disbelief and disappointment. My mom called me, her voice distraught as she tried to understand how her golden boy had fallen so low. They say he has been at it for months. What are we going to do? She asked, her voice breaking. I did not have an answer for her, and the truth was, I did not care. M had made his choices, and now he was paying the consequences. Kay was not doing much better. I heard through acquaintances and family updates that her life was also falling apart. She had moved back in with her parents because she could not afford rent or bills on her own. M had disappeared, leaving her to raise the baby alone. The weight of her decisions was finally crushing her, and I could not say I felt sorry for her. One afternoon, I was in the kitchen helping her prepare dinner when the doorbell rang. R wiped her hands on a towel and went to answer it. I heard the door open, followed by a moment of silence. I quickly walked over, and there was Kay, standing on my porch, looking like she had not slept in days. Her eyes were red and puffy. For a moment, she looked like she was going to collapse. R looked at me with a questioning expression. I nodded, and without a word, she went upstairs to give us some space. Kay gave me a broken smile and said, "Looks like you found someone new." I looked at her coldly. "Why are you here?" Her voice trembled as she spoke. "I did not know where else to go. I need your help. Please. I cannot do this alone. I cannot afford daycare or the bills. My parents are helping, but it is not enough. M is gone, and I do not know what to do." Her voice cracked at the end, but I was not moved. The memories of her betrayal were all I could see when I looked at her. She ruined my life once, and now she was coming to me for compassion. "So, let me see if I understand correctly," I said, my tone neutral but laced with sarcasm. "You slept with my brother, lied about the baby being mine, watched my life fall apart, and now you want me to come and fix yours." She flinched, but I was not finished. "You ruined my life, but now that your perfect plan has gone to hell, you suddenly remember me and want my help." I made a mistake, she whispered. I was stupid. I did not think. I interrupted her. I do not want to hear any of this. It does not mean anything to me anymore. And now you are here, at my door, expecting me to clean up the mess you and Em made. I am sorry, Kay, but I do not have an ounce of compassion left for you. I look at you now, and I feel nothing but contempt. Tears streamed down her face, but I did not waver. She started pleading again. For the sake of the baby. I know he is not yours, but you are the only one who cared. I shook my head, my expression stony. I cared when I thought he was mine, but he is not, and you made sure of that. She looked like she was about to fall to her knees, but she held herself up. I have no one else. I do not know what to do. Then figure it out, Kay, I replied, just like I had to figure out what to do when you and Em destroyed my life. Go to your parents, ask them for help, but do not ever show up here again. She opened her mouth to say something, but I raised my hand, stopping her. I told her to leave and never come back. She stood there for a moment, tears running down her face, before turning and walking away. I watched her disappear down the driveway, and as I closed the door, I felt nothing but relief. I came back downstairs. She asked if everything was all right. I nodded, smiling, and hugged her. Yes, everything is all right. As we sat down to finish dinner, I realized how lucky I was. I had a woman who loved me, a son who was thriving, and a life that had only gotten better since Kay and Em were out of it. I did not need to worry about their misery. That was their burden to carry, not mine. Mine was to make sure I never let anyone like them into my life again.